Over the past several months, but particularly in the last few weeks, I've noticed that the DNC has had a, let's call it interesting, relationship with the US mail. Now, I'm not sure if people remember this, but back in ye old days, the late 90s, early 2000s, both parties, the DNC and the GOP, said that the postal system, as it was a complete and total failure. It is pretty much universally agreed upon that the mail, as the USPS has it, does not work. That's why competitors like Amazon and UPS appeared and have been so successful, because the USPS is broken and it is being used less and less every year by a rather substantial degree due to modernization like email or hell, things like Skype or Zoom or what have you. Actual mail letters, I'm not counting junk mail, actual letters are becoming a rarity. And my opinion is that in probably 20 years' time, it will effectively all be gone. Now, with that said, over the last 6 months, give or take, the DNC has suddenly flipped. They are now of the mindset that the USPS is the greatest thing that has ever existed, that it is in no way have any issues, and that the only reason that there are problems is because that dirty old Trump is trying to cause them. And this largely stems from the DNC wanting universal mail-in voting as the standard for this particular election. Now, one reason they want that, and this I understand, is because of the pandemic. They don't want people to go out and vote. They want people to be able to vote from their own homes. I get that. I really do. They can still go out and vote. I don't... Early elections exist in the majority of states. Early voting exists in the majority of most states. You can do that. You can go at any time. Some of them are 2 weeks beforehand. Some of them are a month beforehand. People have the ability to go. They just don't want to. That's why early voting is effectively nothing compared to actual voting day. Now, another reason is because, so many polling places are closing, and if you listen to the DNC, it's purely for voter suppression reasons. They're trying to take out the minority and poor vote. No. Those polling places, here's the thing about them that people don't seem to realize. Those polling places are run by volunteers, who are typically the elderly. Those polling places are closed because you, DNC, have people so afraid to go out of their fucking homes because of the pandemic that the volunteers that would normally be there to run those polling places are not coming. So they cannot be run, so they have to close them. This is not a voter suppression thing done by the GOP. This is literally the consequences of your fear-mongering. But I digress. So with the pandemic and with polling places closing, they want universal mail-in voting to be a thing. Now, whether you personally think that that is because they want more people to vote or because it's easier to manipulate that, That one I'm going to leave in your hands. That one is completely up to you and what you think of that situation. Personally, I actually think it's a little bit of both. And there is precedent for this. In Arizona, during the 2018 elections, there was a Senate race, and the GOP candidate was winning by about 40,000-ish votes the entire way through. Well, towards the end of the election, pretty much, I think a day or so after the election itself, they found a box of ballots that had just been mysteriously misplaced. And wouldn't you know it, this box contained purely Democrat votes. It was all for the Democrat candidate. What a strange coincidence that. Well, the Democrat candidate ended up winning. To this day, there has not been an investigation into this, which is what I find weird. There have been many, many calls into this because that situation seemed very strange to me, but none have happened. And look, I don't know if this was fraud or if this was just pure stupidity and negligence. Either way, I do believe that in a situation like that where you lose, let's assume the best case scenario here. You lost a box of ballots and then you just happen to find them again. That's when you need to have a redo for the election. And the person that was in charge of that election needs to be fired and charged with election meddling, election interference, just pure incompetence in their position. I don't know what, but you need to effectively send a message that is not acceptable. That is terrible what you did. But that's just my take on that. So we do have evidence of a situation like what a lot of people are expecting that could happen. That it's not fraud, it's not fake votes or illegal votes, which is what the DNC harkens on. I'm sorry. That is not the situation that we are expecting. What we're expecting is extra votes that shouldn't exist, or votes that are hidden away that they just pull out of their ass at the last second. That is a completely different situation than I think the number they always pull out is there's only been 17 fraudulent votes in like 100 million or something to that effect in one state. There have been several different articles recently about how mail-in voting actually does take out a lot of votes, either because they didn't fill out their vote correctly, they didn't send it in time. There's just so many cases of why this vote was not counted, and that's not counted as fraudulent. That's counted as a incomplete, incorrect, or just non-counted vote. And we're talking in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands. Those are numbers that would have swung a few states in the 2016 election, which proves that this is a rather imperfect system and that it is possible that this could fuck up in many bad ways. But then personally, I'm of the mindset that elections should be in person, pen and paper, and that's it. You fill out a voting form by hand, you put it in, it's counted. That's how I view that it should work. But I'm a bit old-fashioned with that regard, and I don't think that technology is, well, let's say the safest alternative in these situations. Hey, Florida, you ever fixed your voting boxes? There have been time and again so many situations where just these horrible nightmare scenarios have happened from mail-in voting requests alone. There's a person that I know of that requested mail-in voting for himself because he often travels, so he wanted to be able to vote in the primary, but wasn't going to be there to vote in the primary. He didn't get his mail-in voting ballot, but he got someone else's. This was a person that had never lived at that was not living at that residence and had never lived at that residence. And when he called up his local or state, I'm not sure which exactly, government body to explain the situation, they told him, just keep it. That's a problem. Or to put this in more understandable terms, we are relying on the same government that sent stimulus checks to dead people to not send mail-in voting ballots to dead people. You see the problem here. If I can't trust our government to not screw up sending money, how can I trust them to not screw up sending ballots which don't have a financial impact on them? I've never seen a level of insanity surrounding the USPS like what the DNC is doing, to the point where Pelosi, the majority leader of Congress, has called an emergency session of Congress during a pandemic while the stimulus has not been voted on to handle the USPS. Pelosi, your job, if you want to get universal mail-in voting to happen, is to make people less paranoid that there is some sort of conspiracy or some sort of alternate idea that you have beyond just sending out ballots. You are not helping when in the middle of a pandemic you only call that back and get that worked on. It's incredibly simple. You could have just said, "Oh, we're doing a emergency session for the USPS and for the stimulus checks," but no, it's purely for the USPS, which is astounding to me. You are, in the minds of many people, confirming that this is going to further your illicit deeds with mail-in voting. Again, whether that's true or not, that's not the point. Your job is to make it so that people don't think that. I really don't get why the DNC is so obsessed with this. And they are so obsessed with it to the point of making people think that it's absolutely to screw with the election in some capacity. It really does feel like because Trump has said that he doesn't want to give the USPS money specifically for the election. He was on Fox Business, I believe, and he said that the USPS has asked for $25 billion specifically for the election. Not for anything else, not to fix, update, whatever, any other parts of the USPS that are outdated that need to be upgraded to fix the very flawed system they have right now. No. It's for the election itself. He said, no, I'm not going to do that. He said that because if you can't fix your other shit, why in the hell should he give you money specifically for this one thing that will never be done again, or at least in until 4 years later? which they will probably need money for again. From a business perspective, yeah, that is a very bad idea. Which is another thing that the DNC seems to be trying to not let people know very clearly. The USPS is not a government-run function. It is its own business. It is a very flawed business that is largely kept up by the U.S. government because before things like Amazon and UPS, there were no alternatives. Now there are, so the government doesn't have a reason to keep it up other than the fact that tradition, I guess. So that's why you see people that are still trying to salvage this. And this has created so many weird conspiracy theories on the left. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is the best example of that I've seen. She saw a flatbed tow truck driver carrying a mail truck. This tow truck driver had a red cap that she swore she saw MAGA on. So she tweeted out in full seriousness that this is proof that Trump is getting his supporters to steal the mail to steal the election. We've had people that have chained themselves up in front of mailboxes. We've had people post pictures of locked mailboxes, something that has happened in a lot of cities on particularly Sundays all the time because of theft. And they're using that as proof that, oh, this is Trump trying to steal the election by locking away mailboxes. Before mail-in votes are even out, a locked mailbox proves that he's trying to steal the election. Okay. The left has gone absolutely bonkers with conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory revolving around the USPS. Meanwhile, Trump and the new Postmaster General are just trying to salvage the USPS. From everything that I've seen, their actions are largely, we are trying to get this to function. Not even at a profit, but at least not at a loss. That's what I'm seeing. But because the left has gone so gun-ho on universal mail-in ballot, they have become the conspiracy theorists. And once again, because they have the correct opinions, their conspiracy theories are true, whereas people pointing out, hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots a year are rejected because of some inaccuracy or impropriety with them. This feels like that's what you're trying to do, and you're just going to heavily inflate those numbers. Anyone that says that, well, they're... Pelosi, DNC, whoever, just whoever in general. Stop going so absolutely gun-ho about the mail, and people will stop saying that this is a conspiracy theory. That's all it takes. That this is a conspiracy to not rig. Rig is the wrong word. To have some inaccuracies with the election. I really don't know what's going to come of the November election. It's going to be a very, very weird one. I do largely think that the DNC is pushing so hard on this because they will then use this as an excuse as to why they lost. That is what I believe is the real reason behind all this. Because I don't think that they are going to do what happened in Arizona, because if they do that in enough states to actually get Biden elected, it would be very telling. It would be the most obvious rigging or the most obvious ballot stuffing in American history. So my guess is they're just using this as a way to say that this was a fraudulent, improper, what have you not, election, so that they can continue to protest Trump while still appearing to have the high ground. And then they're going to prepare for the 2024 election when they actually bring out a candidate that they think can actually win against whoever the GOP brings forth. That's what I really believe is the situation here. I could be dead wrong, but that's more what it feels like based on everything I've seen. And look, just if it really is a case of you thinking that mail-in voting is the way that it needs to happen, just tone the fuck down on it. Stop making it look like what you allege are conspiracy theories correct. If you just toned it back a couple, like a little bit, I don't think that people would be so about it as they are. You know what I'm saying? Man, I've gone on way too long about the fucking mail. I probably talk more about the mail than most people have in the last couple of years. Ugh. This has been Math Machine, once again telling the DNC to fix its shit because I'm an idiot like that, I guess. Peace out.